All right, and we're live. Oh, I'm the only one who has to hold up a book.
Yes,
Oh
we're
yeah,
reading it online. Oh, I'm actually So hey everybody, welcome to this is Grey Fulu here, and here with my two little gibbering monsters, my Eldritch things, Rina Brown and Matilda Tentacles Gothika. Well, we're going to be talking about. So we're basically doing read-throughs of H.P. Lovecraft stuff. We're following the book that Matilda bought recently, which is what volume is that? Is it Cthulhu and Cthulhu Mythos Tales?
Oh my gosh, Cthulhu Mythos Tales.
Yeah, there's so many collected works of H.P. Lovecraft stuff.
Yeah,
the one that we did this time for the first one was Dagon.
Yeah,
I pronounced it Dagon anyway. But I think there was one. There was an earlier one than that, but I can't. I think I put me notes somewhere. I've got some Wikipedia pages open. There was an earlier story a month before, I think, called.
That was published before this one.
Yeah, apparently there was one just before that one. I can't remember what it was called now. I thought I had it here in my. Anyway, this story. Let's talk about this story. I can't remember which one before.
Actually, before we start, I have a funny story about getting this book.
Okay, go for it.
Don't worry, it's short. Now, I wanted to read some H.P. Lovecraft. I got this. Yeah, I got this last year. I wanted to read some. Yeah, or was it this year? I don't remember anymore. But anyway, when I went to get it, this was the only book I could find in Israel stores.
Right.
I asked, do you have like a small one? Maybe something I could, take with me. And this is the only thing they had, so I had to buy this. And then the most expensive thing, a month later, in the same bookstores, I see a small version. Not the full stories, not all this big, but just stories of Cthulhu. I'm like, oh man, because I wanted to try reading some Cthulhu. I didn't want to invest in this without reading him, but there's like, okay, we'll take it.
Yeah, well, it's good.
Yeah, my luck.
It's a nice big book, mate. It's a nice big book. They look cool anyway. So yeah, I've looked it up now quickly. Before this, he had a short story called The Alchemist, and then in June 1917, is a short story called The Tomb. And Dagon was first written in July 1917, but I think it was published in 1919 in a magazine called The Vagrant, issue number 11 of The Vagrant.
Cool.
Later, it was republished in Weird Tales as well. A lot of these stories, the reason they're so short is because they were written...
Wait, Mr. Gray, in what year was it?
It was written in 1917, but published first in The Vagrant in 1919.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I'm thinking H.P. Lovecraft was alive in the last century.
Yeah, at the end of the last century, I think.
Yeah, he died young. He died quite young.
Yeah, he was only about 40 odd when he died.
No, not 40. He was 20 something, wasn't he?
No, he was 47. He was born in 1890 and he died in 1937.
Maybe it was a different writer I saw that died a lot earlier.
Maybe.
Just remember reading about one that was quite young when he died.
47 is pretty young. I'm glad I didn't die at 47. Let's put it that way.
Now, The Alchemist, isn't that a short story? The Alchemist. It was actually a small independent published. Yeah.
I never heard of it. Like the one story I know is just Cthulhu. I mean, hell, I so many times I don't even say H.P. Lovecraft. I just say Cthulhu.
Yeah, because Cthulhu is synonymous. It's his most famous creation kind of thing. I think that story is actually called The Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, yeah, and this is what's here, I think.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Before I even knew anything about H.P. Lovecraft or ever heard of him, I heard of Cthulhu.
Yeah, is that because I'm always showing off my Cthulhu?
No, even before that, when I was even younger, I heard about him.
This is one of the reasons that he's such a popular kind of author, because his work has just been
spread.
Yeah, basically, some of his ideas. He had a big circle of contemporaries that he used to write with, and they used each other's kind of like. So other authors are used and created their own elements of the Cthulhu mythos. So, like, for example, H.P. Lovecraft, he invented something called the Necronomicon, which is the Book of the Dead Names kind of thing, which is like his magic spell book. Then later on, someone came along and made the Book of Avon. I think it was, I remember I've forgotten whose name was now, but someone else made the Book of Aborn. Someone else came along and made up a new book called the Unspeakable Colton. And these are all like kind of magical grimoires and tombs of magic spells that are like kind of used and shared by different authors, kind of thing. Apparently, even the guy who did Conan, is it Robert Howard? Something like that. He also included some Lovecraftian.
Oh wait, it might be.
Robert E. Howard or something like that. I can't remember now, but I always confuse my name.
Either. And I think I think I'm mistaking it with Edgar Rice Burroughs, but he probably.
Oh no, he did Tarzan.
Yeah, I think I get them confused. Mr. Gray, wait, is the Necronomicon a book H.P. Lovecraft wrote?
Yeah, but it's not actually a book. It's a book within his books, if you know what I mean. So it's like a magic book that's connected and quite often.
I had heard of it, but I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, we mentioned a lot. So it's like a plot device, and it's kind of like if someone's got a copy of the Necronomicon, you know they're up to no good, or they're about to read something they shouldn't read, and probably open a gateway they shouldn't have opened.
About to read the Necronomicon.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
What story did the Necronomicon appear in?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know it's pretty sure it's been the Call of Cthulhu. It's been most of his stories. Most of his stories I've got like a mention of them. Like in the Mountains of Madness, it's mentioned. Also, other authors also adopt the Necronomicon, and even like films and stuff like the Evil Dead movies. If you know that franchise.
I know there's so many games even about the Call of Cthulhu mainly.
Yeah.
Not even any of the other H.P. Lovecraft stories, but just that one.
Yeah.
That seems to be like a main focus.
So much influence has been had like by stuff. Even Ghostbusters did, like the Ghostbusters cartoon had a Cthulhu kind of related one, and so many comic books. So many comic books have got nods.
Like the one you showed. Like the one you showed during Halloween.
Yeah, I didn't actually. Yeah, it was the Shambler from the Stars.
I still want to find that.
Yeah, that was the first appearance of H.P. Lovecraft in Marvel Comics, or the first mention of the Necronomicon in Marvel Comics. I've also got the first mention of the Necronomicon in DC Comics as well, because I'm a bit of a Lovecraft fan.
Frugal Mama.
Hi, Frugal Mama boys. Right, so nice short story. Was it your first time reading Lovecraft, both of you?
No,
actually, I already read the story.
I
just read that. No, I read when I bought the book. I read the first story, but after that, I just dropped it. I went on to other things. Now I reread it.
Yeah.
So this was the first actual thing of H.P. Lovecraft I ever read.
Cool. Well, so who did you read before, Rina?
Well, and it actually just clicked for me. That's why I asked you if Alchemist was the short story one. I actually read Alchemist in the 9th grade, but it didn't click for me that was H.P. Lovecraft who had written it.
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
Is it the same Alchemist though? It might be another book called The Alchemist.
I don't know. I think I'm pretty sure it is, because I remember in my 9th grade literature class, we would occasionally read pieces or like snippets of H.P. Lovecraft's passages, and then we would use like his literature for.
How old are you in 8th grade?
In 9th grade, I was like 14, 15, so somewhere in there.
Oh, okay, so you're 12.
Well, that one, The Alchemist, he wrote it in 1908 when he was about 17 or 18. So, and that was first published. That was published in 1916 in the United Amateur, was the name of the publication that first saw the light of day in.
No, his name was familiar to me. I knew I had seen his stuff prior in school. But I may have read The Alchemist if it's the same author I'm thinking of. Otherwise, Dagon is the first one I've read.
So what did you guys think of it anyway? Should we go through the story? Just but rough story
first, yeah.
So we got this man who's basically writing like his final words on some paper before he's about to take his own life. Actually, he summarized it on Ward later and he tells us of how he was his ship was taken by a German ship.
That's right, yeah.
And that happens during World War I, right?
World War I, yeah, because it was 1917 when he wrote it. So
then he drifts. Then he drifts to this island, this weird island that he thinks came out of the ocean because the earth is sticky like dried up magma.
Yeah. It's like if some
lava,
kind of volcanic activity has pushed the ocean bed up to the surface, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then
But
he
also as well, you mentioned
travels on it.
Yeah, we drifted over the point that he was a drug addict. Like by the time at the beginning of the story, before he's relaying what happened to him in the past, he says, "Oh, I'm a drug addict. Now I take heroin."
The morphine doesn't help
the morphine,
anymore.
because he's trying to forget what he's seen. So that's he's kind of like his nerves are shot. He's been driven to the brink of insanity, kind of thing, or maybe over the brink of insanity by what he's seen, what's transpired, and he's been taking drugs to try and keep himself, I don't know, from going even more insane.
Somewhat sane.
Yeah, or to help him to forget, that kind of thing.
And then he, at some point, he reaches like this like big cradle place where
he chasm,
sees
isn't it?
Yeah, he sees a big statue. I really needed to look up a few words in there as I read.
There are some tricky words. There are some tricky words that he uses, and he's world famous. Kind of world famous, but he's very well known for repeating some phrases that you'll see a lot in all his books. But at that time, though, he was only writing for magazines, and you wouldn't necessarily expect everyone to have read each different magazine. So I suppose he used the same words. If he was doing like a series of books, like you wouldn't do the same things over and over again. But he even rehashes some of his ideas later on, like come up with something, and later on, you think, "Oh, that's that was quite good. I'll use that again for another story," kind of thing. Because the ground rising up out of the Pacific Ocean is pretty much used
it's a
later
favorite
on.
of his.
Well, no, later on when he does the Cthulhu myth, Cthulhu, the sunken city of Arlay is like, I'm not sure how to pronounce that properly. It's a tricky one to pronounce. But I always say I change my mind how I pronounce it every time. But Arlay or Arlia, but it's under the ocean, and when the stars are right,
we should consult Google.
Yeah, Google. I don't even know, but yeah. But even Cthulhu we say wrong, because according to H.P. Lovecraft, it was a word that can't be spoken by the human tongue. It's not made for human tongues, and the way he sort of says to be pronounced, it was like something like like that, something like that. So it's like a bubble in the throat, kind of thing. But everyone just says Cthulhu.
It became Cthulhu.
Yeah, Cthulhu's
as much as he might not have wanted it, it became Cthulhu.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But I like that idea, the fact that it's such an alien thing.
And then he sees this big statue, right? And then he sees all these hieroglyphics on it.
Yeah.
And these weird fish creatures.
Yeah.
And he's kind of frog fish creatures. Like sort of like human, right?
Yeah, like half frog, half fish.
How does he call them?
I think bacterian is a word that he uses quite a lot. I don't think he actually says it in. I don't think he actually says it in this story. I've got to admit, actually, this one, I listened to an audio version of it, which I kind of followed along the story at the same time. I think it is in that story. I'm confusing my words up. There's some word that he uses quite a lot. Bacteria is a camel. I completely messed that up. But yeah, no, there was some word that he uses a lot. Like if I don't know, whatever. But you'll see it in future stories. But another thing we missed out as well, when he was traveling across this sticky, mucousy ground that risen up from the ocean, he saw things dead in the ground.
Yeah, those creatures when he first arrived, woke up on the island. These like dead things, and he's later they're probably from down below.
Yeah.
What I didn't really understand is how he went crazy this fast.
Well,
that's the one that kind of I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. You saw unbelievable things.
Yeah,
they cannot be real. But
no,
how have you went that how French was the character's mind?
I think the idea is. Well, you think also thinking in them times, they never had like TV with like special effects and stuff like that, and so something like that would have been so alien to them that to him, a person of that time, and just to think that mankind are the pinnacle of Earth life, and to discover there's a whole civilization living under the sea that dwarf us and can come and destroy us whenever they feel like it. Because later on, he says that towards the end, he was saying, what happens if they rise up from the oceans?
It feels like it was too fast. I mean, I get it. He would freak out. He would panic. I can understand that.
Maybe his mind isn't too strong.
To go in a second, You snapped your fingers and he went mad.
I suppose.
Take it.
Well, but this is kind of it's the character writing his own experience. So even though, we get the, 2 sentences, he went from being crazy to taking the morphine to forget what he was seeing, he's basically summarizing. So I mean, this could have been over the course of months, maybe even years.
Yeah, true.
And he has been under this strain of, not believing what he had seen, and then the hold of morphine for, it could be like a year or 2, and that's why he's been driven to the point of, I just need to end everything.
But I think if you see something that's so vastly outside of your normal experience, then I think that would definitely shock you. And like if you could have a cumulative effect, like say PTSD, like every night it might be waking up in the shakes and like seeing things that aren't there and imagine them coming for him, coming for the civilization. And obviously he takes morphine to, like you say, you could, although it's like expressed like in a few sentences, it may well be.
Yeah, but still, they said how flimsy his mind was, though.
Well, yeah. I mean,
that was enough. That's
I think who knows how you'd react if you was just to see something that was completely alien to you like that. You wouldn't, who knows if your brain would go the same way or not. Especially if no one was believing you, when you something that's so scary.
He didn't, but he does mention he doesn't tell anyone.
No, he mentioned
he just uses the ramblings as him
later
being,
on. Yeah, but in the hospital, and when he was on the ship, when he was rescued from the middle of the ocean.
Exactly.
Thought, that's exactly what I'm saying.
He didn't want them though to take him seriously either. He didn't really talk about it.
Well, because everyone that he spoke to about didn't believe him. There was no evidence of the ocean rising up, and obviously they just took it as maybe sunstroke or something.
And then he talks to that specialist to describe him these fish creatures, and he tells him about this god, the specialist. Yeah, but it sounds nothing like.
No, that's right.
It sounds too normal, as he says.
Yeah, because he was trying to work out what god it could be that was being worshipped, and he was thinking of other gods from like history that people worshipped, and Dagon was an old god that was worshipped. But a few people who like Cthulhu kind of like aficionados have said that though he was called Dagon, he was just like thinking of a god that we knew about, and sort of say maybe it's Dagon, but it's believed that it was actually Cthulhu. That there was actually because later on the Cthulhu is said to rise up from the Pacific Ocean, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which is basically pretty much
I look forward to that part.
Cthulhu is coming.
The story was okay, but I can't say I was impressed.
No, but you got to consider this an old story as well. It's not like it doesn't share the same kind of devices that we would have in a modern story, and also it's a short story written
but still, for, 80 Days
books.
Around the World was an old story, and still I was captivated by that one.
That's a proper novel, though, isn't it? It's not just a short story.
But still, as the short stories go, I mean, it wasn't boring, but
no.
Can't say I was amazed out of my seat.
No, you're not going to be amazed by anything. This is the general kind of.
By the way, it's a good thing I summarized it because I started to forget it again.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's why he's not necessarily like a great author by this day, but he's a greatly influential author because of the stories that he wrote and the ideas that were taken up by other people. And
looks like it was more the ideas than the writing style.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, definitely. Because as I say, a lot of his style is rehash. He rehashes his ideas. He uses formulate.
And I do remember I heard somewhere where his he wasn't very good at writing dialogue between people.
That's right. Dialogue between people.
Very clunky.
Yeah, and like there's no love interest in any of his stories, no emotion kind of stuff. And it's literally mostly descriptions and like horrible things happening. But he was writing, like, this is for people who want to read a scary, like a mystery story, like a monster kind of thing. So he's not going to go into mass. And like he was basically, because he was writing to earn his living, because he was pretty poor most of his life. So he's just writing off stories, sending them out to these things. And he's not going to be writing War and Peace or any kind of like, proper. It's going to be like quick stories that people are going to, the readers of these magazines are going to like. So he probably didn't feel the need to write a, proper story with characters and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So he was kind of like stuck in his medium kind of thing because of possibly what, he had to earn his money, he had to eat. So he's kind of like just cranking them out in a way, and sending them off to people to, rather than that's why another reason his unpopularity during his lifetime is one of the reasons he became so popular later, because his stories all became open to anybody. Nobody had the copyright on them. Nobody owned them. So
and then they turned them into more.
Yeah, so people who were fans of his, like there was a publisher called Arkham House or something, and they started, H.P. Lovecraft stuff, nobody owns it. It's open for anybody. So they started publishing it, and that's why you can get it all over the internet. You can just look it up. You won't find it, won't be hidden anywhere because no one owns it, I don't think. So you can read it online quite easily, and that's how it becomes so popular with a lot of people, because it was so easy to get hold of, and so I think that's one of the reasons. And also, like say, games are made of it, heavy metal songs are made about his stuff, horror films are made featuring his stuff, and so
was there ever a proper Cthulhu movie, Mr. Gray?
There's been
like the Call of Cthulhu movie.
Yeah, there's there's an organization called the H.P. Lovecraft Theatrical Society or something like that, who made a Call of Cthulhu, I think, in the style of an old movie from that period. It's like a silent 1920s kind of like movie. I've not actually seen that though. I've not actually seen it. There's been a few stuff based on it, but a lot of people say that one's made a really great Lovecraft movie. But there's a few decent ones like Re-Animator.
What? It would be cool, like, to see the scene where Cthulhu rises from the ocean. Yeah, I've seen quite a lot of drawn images, and it's both amazing but scary. That's really that's terrifying.
Yeah,
as the truly terrifying one. It's very amazing too.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think, I won't go. I won't give any spoilers.
Were there any? Yeah, don't tell Mr. Gray. Were there any ever cults in his stories, Mr. Gray? Because a lot these games I saw with the Call of Cthulhu, the main thing in there was a cult.
There's always Cthulhu cults. I'm not sure how many stories he mentions have Cthulhu cults. There are some. Yeah, it's called Cthulhu. There is like a cult.
You think it's something that was made more in modern times by other people than by H.P. Lovecraft himself?
Yeah, no, there was some like believers in certain places of the world, certain dark corners of the world would have like Cthulhu cults and believers, but kind of like hidden away from society kind of thing. Like in Call of Cthulhu, there's a cult out in the Louisiana swamplands or something like that, all chanting around a Cthulhu idol or something. And there's another story later on. There's some people who are kind of like beholden to the deep ones, which includes Father Dagon and Mother Hydra.
Yeah, the deep ones brings a bell.
The deep ones, yeah.
I don't know why though, but it sounds familiar.
Yeah, basically underwater dwelling monsters.
The deep ones, creatures.
Yeah. So yeah, there's kind of like this. When you look at the story as well, at the end, where he's writing down his suicide note, and at the end he goes, "The window." He's going to jump out the window. You wouldn't really stop to type that.
He wouldn't, would he? If he saw the scaly hand coming, and he fucks the pen out the window.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the kind of anachronistic thing about it. I think in them days they would see like a perfectly good thing to have, but nowadays you'd be like, that's just stuff. He wouldn't bother to stop. He wouldn't stop to type that down before he jumped out the window.
Yeah. Wait, didn't he write it, or did he type the letter?
Well, wrote it or typed it. I'm not too sure if he was typing or writing. I don't think it specifies. I
think he wrote it, because I understood as I write these things on the page. I think he mentions it at some point.
I'm thinking the whole thing of the hand coming through the window, through the door, was just his imagination, to be honest. I don't think the deep ones had come out of the sea
at this point, his brain's already not functioning that well.
He was probably seeing them all over the place, wasn't he? He was probably seeing,
who knows? Maybe it was the deep ones. Remember that you showed that cover a few times, Mr. Gray, where the guy, he's in a prison cell and going to be safe from the tentacles.
That's tentacled. That's the Shambler from the Stars.
Yeah. Is that Cthulhu? I mean, is that H.P. Lovecraft too, or
that's different? That's H.P. Lovecraft as well. Okay. Yeah. Loads of stories. You've got tons to go.
It seems. I mean, there's this whole. I'm not even sure if this whole book is has everything. It seems like it's more the Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah,
Oh, by the way, here's
it's the mythos.
the
It's the mythos related tales, isn't it? So it'll be the ones related to the mythos. He does mention the mythos in some of his other stories, but apparently I've recently learned about all versions of Dagon. Were there other versions of the same story, of the Dagon story? I think there might be a poem called Dagon as well. He did quite a lot of poems that quite often touched on his mythos related stuff. But maybe that book is only the ones that are really tied into the mythos, because he's got a whole nother sort of set of stories called the Dream Cycle, where there's a lot more kind of dream related stuff.
There's here the history of the Necronomicon is here in this book as well.
Oh, wait, is that a story or an article?
A story, looks like.
I don't remember there being a story called the History of the Necronomicon.
I mean, maybe it's just a section where they talk about the Necronomicon.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe you'll have to read that to us. You have to read.
Sadly, it looks like there's no. What did you call it, Mr. Gray? The
Dream Cycle.
No, not the Dream Cycle. With the tentacle monster.
The Shambler from the Stars.
The Shambler.
Yeah, Shambler from the Stars.
Yeah. Looks like there's no. This one doesn't appear in here, unfortunately. There is something else with space, though. The Color Out of Space.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's had a pretty decent film made about it recently as well. Like
other versions of the being Dagon in ancient cultures.
Oh,
what is it? Palestinian god.
Yeah. That Shambler from the Stars actually wasn't by Lovecraft. It was by one of his contemporaries, Robert Bloch. Robert Bloch did the Shambler from the Stars.
Interesting.
But it was like based on that characters, that.
And then there's in the last page, there's original dates of publication. That's it.
Right.
So it's not all of it here. Cthulhu is beyond cool. I have a limited number of Cthulhu print from a local artist.
Cool. Yeah, you can't beat a bit of Cthulhu.
Cthulhu is a very cool. He's not a monster. He's a god.
Yeah, kind of god monster
alien, god alien.
Yeah,
not actually a monster.
There's kind of like two different sort of families of these god monsters from Lovecraft as well. You got the ancient ones, the old ones. I think great old ones. They're sometimes called. I think Cthulhu is a great old one, and then you got the outer beings who even dwarf Cthulhu by comparison. As Azathoth, the nuclear chaos, is in the middle of the blind idiot god, as he's sometimes known, and he's sort of sleeping. They say that when he wakes up, the universe will blink out of existence because we're like his dream kind of thing. Like, and as soon as if he ever wakes up, we're all going to just go bonk. We'll no longer be here.
We're all screwed.
Yeah, that's one of the things about the.
Seems like H.P. Lovecraft had a secret desire to be rid of humanity.
Well, I think that's it's like the existential dread and the cosmic horror, as they call it, where the sort of the main thing of the fear is that we all thinking, we're top of the food chain, human beings are pinnacle of civilization. Exactly. And then you suddenly realize there's something out there much bigger than us, and all our hopes and dreams and our beliefs and it's all like kind of dwindles, and it's like, oh my god, and suddenly you feel like that big, and it's like, oh my god.
And that puny.
Yeah, well, that puny. That's why people go mad. That's why people go mad. That's why they're all in the asylum.
Crises.
Yeah, definitely. But there's not much in the way of like action, like say that there's not be any gunfights or anything like that. Be some just people just mind snapping a lot. And some of the words that you'll see repeated over and again is Eldritch. You can always get an Eldritch. You're always getting Cyclopean, which means architecture.
Is Eldritch a name or something?
No, Eldritch is like kind of like mysterious.
Cyclopean, which means big.
Yeah,
right?
That's like, it's in relation to architecture.
I did look that one. That one I did look up the first time I read it. I went in and because I thought of a cyclop.
He even mentions a cyclops by name. I think it's a Polyphemus or something. It's a couple of times he says great Polyphemus being, which is like a name of one of the cyclops, one of the giant cyclops from the Greek mythology. And the Cyclopean is like, because it looks like it's made by cyclops, like giant blocks of stone all piled to go on top of each other. And the other thing, the moon is always gibbous as well in H.P. Lovecraft. The moon is always gibbous, which I can't remember what goalkeeper sees. I don't know, half light or something like that. I can't remember. And non-Euclidean.
How many movies that came out about Lovecraft stories, Mr. Gray? I don't recall one movie ever.
There's been lots. The Colour Out of Space just came out pretty recently. There's been a few versions of The Colour Out of Space. There's been a German version of The Colour Out of Space. There's one with Nicolas Cage that came out a year or two ago.
Oh, boy.
Pretty decent. Yeah, he acts his socks off in that one. He chews up the scenery like he always does. There's a couple of Re-Animator movies.
Is something.
Yeah, he's quite wild, quite larger than life.
Quite eccentric.
If anyone else wants to join us, we were saying before
Rina, why are you wearing a hat indoors?
I wanted to show off Cade's merch.
Oh, is that Cade merch? Is it?
Oh,
hold on, let me put you on big screen.
Yeah.
I see. It's his little froggy person.
It's his little avatar dude. Yeah, no, I was like, man, I don't know what to do with my hair. So instead, I decided to put on his hat.
I was wondering why you need a hat indoors.
No, just the style for today.
Yeah, Silver Knight saying,
no hats fit on my hair, so I can't understand that.
I've got a big head. I managed to fit hats on my head, and I've got a big head. Yeah.
No, I mean my hair. My head's not the problem. My hair's the problem. It doesn't fit on the hair.
Is it like Medusa from the Inhumans?
Yeah,
it's like,
right. Put in all the snakes.
Yeah. Yes, Silver Knight. I know loads of metal bands of H.P. Lovecraft stories. Every
there's been a ton of them.
Every December, the first Sunday, because I do my podcast, a weekly heavy metal podcast. The first Sunday after Christmas is Cthulhu Mass, where I always do nothing but H.P. Lovecraft related bands. So, like, they've got songs that somehow related.
Oh, this year I need to listen to that.
The old ones are there as well. You can listen to them anytime.
I need to go check that. I'm just curious now what kind of songs they wrote about
like bands named after
Lovecraft.
There's probably, let me just have a quick check there. I'm guessing there's probably about at least 10 bands that are called Necronomicon. Let me just check Necronomicon.
Well, they have to also have some variations, right? You can't have the same name as another band.
There's 6 bands called Necronomicon. There's one called Necronomicon
I stand corrected.
You stand corrected. And there's another one called Transcribing the Necronomicon. But yeah, there's every single.
How do you tell them apart? I mean, not to be rude, but like, it's a bunch of metal people. They all named the band Necronomicon. I want to buy a Necronomicon CD. And then
they'll be in different countries.
Like, which Necronomicon band exactly? There's a couple. He pulls out a list. Okay, which one?
Well, sometimes they're not necessarily around at the same time. So there might be a band called Cthulhu, for example, who was around in the 80s. They split up. Somebody else comes along and makes up their own band.
How do you handle the legality, though?
When it's metal, when it's heavy metal, unless you're a really big band, no one's going to care particularly because there's only so many bands in the world, and it's not like we tend to copyright stuff like that because it's like
okay.
Unless you're a really huge band and somebody else is copying your name to try and get some of your popularity, then no one's really gonna. Because there's 6 bands called Cthulhu. Then we got Cthulhu Rights, Nuclear Cthulhu, Teen Cthulhu, Bong of Cthulhu, and stuff like that.
I want to see Hello Kitty Cthulhu.
Hello Kitty Cthulhu, yeah. That
would be a band. It'd be like Marilyn Manson. Like those 2 things do not fit together.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was. What's it? Yeah, there you go.
Usually the bands are from different. Okay, separate. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking in one place you got these bands. Did
we actually finish the story synopsis? Because he called down into the chasm, and while he's in there, there's like a.
Sees all these things. Yeah, like the mind snaps.
Yeah, he sees the giant. First he sees the giant statue. He sees the giant statue, and it's carved with hieroglyphics. But obviously, it's got octopi and fish and whales and that kind of thing.
And the frogfish people that freak him out.
And then he sees like a bas relief that's carved, and he sees that there's like fish-looking men. But he says, "Oh, the scale must be wrong because it shows them like the same size as whales practically. Regardless, the scale must be out." And then while he's sort of sitting around looking around, something comes out from the water. and starts to sort of like exalt in front of the giant statue there, doesn't it? So he holds onto the statue, starts chanting or whatever in its fishy way, its fishy frog way, and that's what makes his mind blow.
And then he runs back, and after that, he can't really remember what happened.
Yeah,
he wakes up in a hospital in San Francisco.
Yeah,
and then he consults a specialist, and later on, he needs the morphine to somewhat stay sane.
Exactly, yeah.
Because he can't handle it.
Because he goes from running away to waking up in San Francisco. So obviously his mind must have just gone blank for a while, mustn't it? Or he's blacked out a lot of the things that he saw. Maybe in that time, he was, like he said, he says at one point, as he was running away to try and find where his boat was, to try and get back to sailing off, he's singing. He's just crazily singing, didn't he? He said that, and I can't remember. He's just singing and then sometimes he giggled as he was laughing as well. So obviously his mind's gone cuckoo. He's like, I can't believe I've seen that. I can't believe it must have been. Yeah, I think the losing your marbles is kind of. I think it makes sense personally.
Yeah, but still, to me, it seems a bit I don't know, too quick.
Yeah.
I mean, the more I get acquainted with H.P. Lovecraft, they'll seem normal. They all go nuts.
They do pretty much all go nuts. Yeah, it's like they can't believe the things that they've seen, and it's completely rocked their world. And yeah, that's how they roll. I suppose when you're doing a short story, you've got to have an ending to the short story, haven't you? So going mad and then committing suicide, that's a good enough way to finish the story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's going to be provocative and dramatic. Let's go with that.
Yeah. I mean, you look at every comic story, like a little short story horror film, they always end with someone dying.
At least with H.P. Lovecraft, you don't have the revolving door of death.
No.
Where's that from? You die.
Oh, you don't come back to life, you mean? No.
Yeah. Don't they joke and call it the Marvel's revolving door of death?
Yeah. People always go, and DC do that as well, to be honest. Superheroes come back to life, but people in H.P. Lovecraft novels don't come back to life. Unless it's Re-Animator, where Re-Animator is about bringing people back to life. But it's
a Necronomicon?
I think the Necronomicon is, I can't remember if it's mentioned in that one or not. It's a bit different, that one. It's a scientist who creates a formula that brings people back to life. But yeah, not very successfully, let's put it that way. But we'll get to that. That's quite a long one, actually. That's a fairly long one. So you might even do that. I think it was originally in 3 books. And maybe we could do one book at a time or something like that. We'll see where we get to it.
Oh yeah, I'm guessing that the Call of Cthulhu is in this one, right?
Yeah, it's got to be. If it's the mythos, that's the most important one of the mythos. So
yeah, I also have my little one. I have a little book of Cthulhu.
Right.
Yeah, here we go. The Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, it's on. Oh yay! It's on page 36.
Oh, right, so it's not far off then.
Yeah.
No, not far off. I'm currently on page 6.
What did you say was next in that book?
Naira.
Oh yeah, Nyarlathotep. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Egyptian.
Yeah. That's quite a long gap. That's like 1920. Nyarlathotep.
Yeah.
Nyarlathotep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna consult Google later.
Well, it's NY, so that's Nye. AR is R. Then LATH, I say Lath, and then OTEP. Nyarlathotep. That's how I always do it. Although I have heard people say Nyarlathotep. So your man it's almost as difficult as blinking Bardoon, Matilda.
Why?
You thought Bardoon was a tricky one to say, or Barry, whatever it was you was calling him.
No, not tricky. I just called him. I just read it as Brandon. I didn't notice it was written Brandon. I just read it as Brandon. And that's it.
Should we call Nyarlathotep Nigel then, so it'd be easier?
I'm sure I'll get it. I just need to say it enough times.
Yeah.
I had words like that where, hi, busy mama.
Hi, busy mama.
I don't know. What does Sharon mean by "ga work is busy"?
She's working.
It means the sound.
Yeah.
I was starting to think who's ga.
Yeah, ga. Life is busy. Or work is busy.
Yeah, like a gad.
Yeah. So I suppose that's kind of wraps it up. Then we know what's coming up next. Nyarlathotep is another short one.
Yeah.
I know a little bit.
I'll just call him Naya.
Naya, that would do.
Then I'll remember Naya. We're reading Naya.
I'm gonna remember Nigel now. That's all I'm gonna do.
Nigel Lathotep, yeah. Can I
Nigel Lathotep. Is this weird kid always reading about the Egyptians? Lives down the street.
Yeah. Nigel.
Yes, just stay away from Nigel. He likes squids.
We'll move on to that one next anyway. So that was. This is the thing with these stories. Are nice and short, and we'll get to some longer ones later on. But it's just there's not an awful lot to sort of calculate or talk about it. Really, we've gone through the story and discussed what bits of it we like. But is there any particular lines that that you liked? Any particular bits of it that was like, oh, that sounds like a cool phrase or anything like that?
I did like the description of how he described the statue, the cyclopean. I did like that word. That was quite cool.
That's one of his favorites.
And not an issue in this episode. No, Isles fans are still an issue.
No, I would have to say that
Sharon, you mentioned it.
It wasn't so much for me individual lines. It was kind of more. I liked the transition between, he takes all these real world issues, like in the beginning, like being addicted to a drug and being captured as a POW and escaping, by the skin of his chin, but then you suddenly get thrown into, he's looking over these creatures on this weird island, and he's still trying to
not much of a hero. Our main character is he? Right. He escaped alone. Fuck the rest of you. I'm out of here.
He was quite brave to risk the blinking Pacific. It was quite silly, really, because the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, that might be, isn't it?
The chances of actually.
I loved how he conveniently managed to go around the ship and get enough food or water to last him for a while. That line was like,
hey, that's convenient, But no,
I just thought he was escaping. I thought how conveniently he had enough. Enough what? It's not like he could calculate his journey where he would go.
But it's just a device, though. It's just a device to get him out into the middle of the Pacific.
Right.
So it's just it's just literally leading up to that. That whole thing of being caught is done in about 2 sentences, because that's not the main part of the story. That's not an important part of the story. It's just a device to get him into the Pacific so he can find this. Yeah.
And I liked how kind of it's split between you have all these real world issues, then it drops in the horror mystery, monsters bit of it, and then at the end he basically wraps up. Well, now I'm back. I've gone to doctors. I've gotten addicted. And he's like, and now I must wrap.
Now the morphine doesn't even help me anymore.
Right. But then he's
at a point where I can't stand it. It's quite a thing in HP Lovecraft. The games is always an emphasis on how they're slowly going mad. They keep seeing visions, dreams, hallucinations.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rina, continue.
Finish your last point.
Well, I was gonna say I like how he had made this this clear split between real life and the fantasy bit of it, but then right at the end he sees what he thinks is something coming for him and then committing suicide. I feel like that was just a really nice balance of how he put that together, of keeping such realism and then tying in all of the fiction part.
To me, it feels like it was just in the background to get us to the point of seeing the creatures. But to me, this is a story in a magazine. Maybe if it was an actual book, it would have been developed. But it feels like it was just more background details than anything else.
Just a few bits to get into the story.
The whole him being on the ship and that didn't really feel. I don't know. I mean, it represents the real world, but the whole point was to get us to the island.
But that was kind of a good point as well. You're talking about that. I didn't think about the juxtaposition between there's the war's gone on and the war was still going on as it was written, and that powers the insignificance when he thinks there's these things under the sea that could come up at any time and decide to take over, and they worship this god that's even bigger than them, even more gargantuan than they are, and who's to say
people are huge.
Exactly, the people who are as big as whales, and if they've risen up once, and I've managed to discover them, what's to stop them from one day discovering us? Especially with all these ships going and war and battles at sea going on. Maybe that will wake them from there, or maybe there's some more.
Curse you, Columbus! What have you done?
Yeah, maybe there's some more earthquakes, and the bottom of the ocean will rise even more, and these things will start investigating outwards.
Now I want to see a cyberpunk version of Cthulhu. Everyone down in submarines with guns.
I think there was a recent movie actually which ends up being Cthulhu. There was something like, I can't remember what it was called. I've not seen it yet. Something like Underwater or Below or some name like that. And I remember seeing like a little clip, and suddenly like all these things are going on underneath the sea, and then suddenly you look up and there's like a little underwater beam and it's focusing out, and you see like Cthulhu like underneath the water kind of thing, and this little diver like and it was literally a tiny little clip. I'm not even sure what movie
what
it was called.
Movie was it, Mr. Gray? When did it
I don't
come
remember.
out?
I don't remember recently. I remember seeing a trailer for it recently. I was like, oh, that's Cthulhu. Cthulhu's in it.
Interesting. I haven't heard of it at all.
Yeah, if anyone knows what film that was, leave me a comment so I can try and look it up, because I expected that to sort of see it at some point, but I can't remember what it was called. But yeah.
Do you think it had more advertising with something like that?
It probably did, but I just probably forgot it. I think it might have been like recently with all the lockdown, so people ain't going to get to cinema, have they? So
well, yeah.
I get a feeling it was fairly recent.
Well, if it's behind the Disney paywall, no way I'm going to see it.
No, I don't think it'd be Disney's cup of tea. I don't think it'd be Disney. I'm pretty sure Disney won't have it.
Don't let them get their hands on Cthulhu. They're gonna pussify him.
There has been a children's cartoon, Cthulhu cartoon. Actually, I think it was might have been on at the Mountains of Madness.
What did they do for the kids version with them though?
Like let's see if I can.
It'd be interesting just how you tell it to kids. I mean, do you really want to go with the concept of mental health and go crazy with children?
Yeah. Let's have a see if this is it.
So it's something to be a little bit hard to explain. I feel like. Well, it depends for what ages of children. Maybe it's like 12 and up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was if it was just a fan movie or whether it was actually a proper release movie kind of thing. I'm not too sure. I've got something. I'm just trying to do a Google for it, but I think this might be something that people have made themselves. Yeah.
But does that mean if Cthulhu's in the public domain, can people just write stories with him in?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, since you mentioned that publisher, I mean, they're not like they don't have the exclusive rights now.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I think anyone can use him. I'm pretty sure anyone can use like his characters because they're something now. I think they're all public domain, and that's why you get so many anthology releases of his stuff. And then also you get lots of new authors who do Cthulhu and the mythos-related stories themselves. You can buy whole new books of whole new authors writing stuff based in the same kind of universe sort of thing. And there's hundreds of those probably as well. I bought one recently called World War Cthulhu, and it was all like mythos-related stories around different periods of war kind of thing. So there's one with like War of Independence kind of thing, and some World War II based ones. I think even some modern warfare based ones as well.
I think Mr. Paul Yankee Southerner had a book I think recently that may have had some Cthulhu in it.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, should we wrap this up then? Unless we've got anything else to say about this particular story.
All right, so we're reading 9 next time.
Nigel. We're reading Nigel next time.
Now, Mr. Gray, say the proper name, or they're really going to think there's a Nigel story.
Nyarlathotep is how I pronounce it. It's either Nyarlathotep or Nyarlathotep. Some people, Nyarlathotep. I've heard some people. I prefer Nyarlathotep because for me it sounds like it flows better. But I know he's supposed to be like, I think he's known as the Mad Pharaoh or something like that, the Black Pharaoh. So maybe it's Nyarlathotep.
Sounds like my kind of
thing. You say
thing.
Hotep sounds Egyptian, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hotep does sound like Imhotep.
Yeah. Anyway, cheers for coming on then. Thanks
all right, so we're gonna be here again next week, same time.
Next week.
Exclusively on Mr. Gray's channel.
Same
We're
Cthulhu
not
time.
Move around,
Same Cthulhu time. Same Cthulhu channel.
Yeah.
I might actually download. I've got a video because you said it's in the public domain. I've got a video, a couple of places out a couple of times. I did a silly movie called Cthulhu Fear, just like a homemade daft horror movie. And there's one little section in it where I make a cartoon of it. Like I might have to download that so I can play that at the end of the stream. Or maybe
that would be cool. I'm Mr. Gray. Well, next week maybe you grab your little Cthulhu doll so I can begin the stream.
If I'm at home, let's see if I can just
change your profile picture just like one time a week just to have Cthulhu up on the channel.
I thought it's a shame Mr. Gray's not home. Then he could have brought the mini Cthulhu and put him here.
Actually, I can play out of it because I've managed to download it already. But this is I've kind of made a few versions of it and I upgraded it. But I was thinking of doing like a little series of these. Let me just play it. Let's just play it to you now. Actually, let's just share this video file. And it's me singing. It's me singing.
Hello, I'm Cthulhu. I live beneath the sea. Why not come and visit me in my sunken city, Ali? I keep on dreaming, even though I'm dead. I'm very funny looking with an octopus for a head. Hello there, would you like to meet my friends? Some say that we shouldn't be named, and even that we should not be, but that's just mean. Why, here's Shub-Niggurath, the goat of 1,000 young. How could such a doting mother ever be considered an abomination? And Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos. He looks after his master Azathoth so diligently. I have so many good friends who are dying to meet you. Saphogua, Hastur, Dagon. Saphogua, that's a funny name. Can you spell Saphogua? Ollie will soon be rising from the Pacific Ocean. Check out its architecture, some say it's cyclopean. Join my friends and I, when the moon shines gibberously. I am sure that we all will get on squamously.
Yay, it's over. God, that drags on.
I'm telling you, that mama's definitely not going to be a MILF mama.
I love how could such a devoted mother be?
Yeah, ever considered an abomination.
One hell of a devoted mother, indeed.
Yeah.
I don't want to know where the birth canal is.
You'll see her later on in a few stories. Shub-Niggurath, the goat of the black goat of the woods of 1,000 young. She's supposed to have like 1,000 children, kind of thing. So it's like
I want to know who hit that. Who was the brave mom who decided, you know what, I'm gonna take one for the team.
Oh
I think her husband might be Shub-Niggurath. I'm not too sure. There's another demon called Shub-Niggurath. Yeah, they've all got really catchy names.
Yeah, very catchy. They named a child after that.
Yeah, we thought Nyarlathotep was going to be tricky for you. You're going to have even more trouble later on, probably, Matilda, as we go along.
I'll manage somehow. To be fair, at first I didn't know it was Cthulhu. I used to call him Cholulu.
Yeah. All right then. So that was my Daft cartoon. Cheers for watching, everybody.
Bye, guys.
We'll be back next week for Nyarlathotep. Yeah. Bye. Watch out for the demons. That hand. The window.